Good afternoon. The topic is footwear evidence examination. Footwear evidence examination. Footwear evidence can be deposited on almost any surface, from paper to the top of on the top of a table, a window frame, and tiles, even to the human body. And this kind of evidence is the evidence that is left behind by the footwear of a suspect. Locard's exchange principle says that every contact leaves a trace. Every contact leaves a trace, which means wherever a suspect or a criminal or anybody enters into a new environment, there is always a change of material. So the criminal or the suspect will enter to the crime scene with a set of some materials in his body or her body, and then deposit or take take some away. Though it may be uncommon, or let me say it is not uncommon to see people wearing and someone wearing hand gloves during the daytime or even anytime. So but it is very uncommon for anyone to use anything to cover his shoe. To wear something that will cover the shoe. That is unlikely. So some criminals that are maybe sophisticated or about what they can use to expose them, they may get to the crime scene wearing hand glove, which means it will be possible for them to leave their handprint, the fingerprint on the crime scene, but they will surely leave their footwear evidence. They will surely deposit their footwear impression or the print on the crime scene. And footwear evidence, when collected and preserved properly, can provide the type, the make and description of the shoe, even the size of the shoe. And it can at times can give us an approximate height of the suspect, and also can provide some vital information like how many numbers of suspects were in the crime scene, the path through which they came from, came into the crime scene, or the path which they move away from the crime scene. It can also give us a clue on how violent the crime was and the events that occur during the crime scene. For example, if a heavy load or a heavy material was carried away, the analysis of the footwear evidence will show that something heavy was carried away. Then it can even give us a clue whether so those things can be given to us. We can surely know the path that they took after they used to retreat, or the path their exit point. So all this can be given to us. You can know the numbers of people that came, and you can even know whether some of them are male or female, and can give us whether the crime was violent or not, or whether some heavy load were carried away from it. Just like fingerprint, footwear impression types can be divided into three. We have visible prints. The visible prints are are made by the wet footwear transferring material from it to the surface. Like for example, when there is blood, when there's wet blood on the ground and the suspect mash it. After mashing it, the footprint, the footwear will be giving us print, visible prints. We leave footprint behind. So that's an example, and can be ordinary or some other dirt. The shoe, the dry shoe, walking on a dry surface, so that the electrostatic induction will cause the print to be on the surface. Then lastly, we have what we call plastic, and this plastic is in 3D impression. Both visible print and latent print, both of them are 2D impression. 2D impression means they have width and length. So, but 3D impression has length, width, and depth. So that one is a total impression that is totally different from that of visible and latent, and that is what we are going to demonstrate during the time of practical today. Let's move forward. Now, how do we collect this evidence? Whether it is latent, whether it is visible, whether it is 3D impression, how do we collect it? I said both the latent and the visible, they can be classified as 2D impression, whereas the plastic is 3D impression. Now, the 3D impression is collected by casting, and that is, we are going to demonstrate that one. So let's leave this one, that one till later. The 2D impression is collected by using some methods. The first one is by using adhesive lifter. Adhesive lifter is a coating of adhesive on a material, like when you have a kind of gum or gummy material on A4 sheet. So we use this one to remove or to collect impression, to collect 2D impression from non-porous surfaces like tiles, like the surface of a table, like surface of wooden material. So we place it upon it, and then we use our fingers. We use our fingers to make sure it is properly in contact with the surface. Then we remove it little by little, and all the impression will be on it. Then after that one, we can take the photograph of it. Then we take it to the lab where we will compare it with the shoe print, with the shoe of the shoe print of the suspect, of a suspect or the suspects. We compare them together. Then we also use a gelatin lifter. Gelatin lifter is this is using a sheet of rubber with a low adhesive gelatin layer. This can lift print on almost any surface, including porous, rough, textured, and coarse surfaces. This allows lifting a print from a surface like cardboard without tearing the surface. So it is less tacky and less flexible than an adhesive lifter. And Also, on if it is latent print, what you use is powder print, just like your fingerprint impression. We apply powder thrice or twice to the place where the impression is observed by the brush in a front and back motion, unlike your fingerprint that you have to do it in a, you have to roll it, but this one you use it in a front and back motion, using a kind of compressed hair to remove excess powder. Then you make a tape. A tape now may be used to cover the impression strip by strip, overlapped, using the index finger to press the tape down over the print. Then you now then remove the tape by pulling with the same amount of pressure on over all the strip of the tape. So the same amount of pressure until the print is lifted up. After lifting, the lifted impression must be placed at the back of the backing medium. You know what is backing medium? We've shown it several times on some other while lifting fingerprint, while lifting some other impressions at the crime scene. So the backing medium, you place it at the back of the backing medium, which means this type of backing medium must be wider than the previous one that you be using. A backing medium is just that card that you use to get information, that you use to write information, all the information concerning the evidence, so that while getting to the lab, it won't be mixed with another evidence. So on the card you have the date of collection, you have the location of collection, you have the type of evidence, the name of the officer, the investigator, the date and signature, and the case file, and so on and so forth. So before collecting any evidence, any footwear impression evidence, just like any other evidence, you make sure you document. Documentation is highly necessary. So proper documentation must be done and preserved properly to maintain the integrity of the evidence. So before you do anything at all, make sure you document. You document, then photograph, then you use use photography method. You must use photography method. Photograph of the evidence in the crime scene must be done from general to specific. So while photographing, you make sure that it is done from specific to the general. From general to specific. That is, the first thing, as you are coming, you take the picture that you show us the overview of every part of the crime scene, an overview of orientation, and then you move in and take another one that you show us relationship between an object and others. Then where you have the impressions, where you locate the impressions, you take the photograph of that place also, and you have to take it in a way that you show the relationship between it and the next object to it. So the photography must be taken at an angle of 90 degrees, perfectly 90 degrees to the impression. The reason is that we want to conserve the width, the size of the picture, so as for us to be able to compare to the actual size. Because by the time you see the actual size, the suspect footwear, it will be that will help us to compare to the actual size. If you are using a separate flash with the camera, place it at 45 degrees. That is, the flash must be placed at 45 degrees to avoid reflection of the print, so that you won't have reflection that will make some of the characteristics on the impression or on the print to be obscured. Let's move forward. So I said we must documentation is compulsory. Then also you, after the documentation, you also do photography. Photography is another form of documentation, but you have to use your pen, write some things down so that you won't forget. You can also use a video to cover some things so that you will to cover the crime scene so that you won't forget. By the time you get to the office, you can it will help you to recap on what you have seen, what you have done, on what you can do. And another um, advantage of photographing or of using photography method is that if during the lifting, if there's a problem like a breaking of part of that evidence, you can still have the picture and the correct picture with you. Apart from the fact that it will serve as a means of storage the evidence later. And if there's any reason for it to be for you to call upon it during cross examination, because the purpose of investigation is to help the court, so the court may need you to come and explain what you have done, and during the cross examination you may need to produce this kind of a thing that you show that truly what you said you saw is what you really saw. Now the casting, I said the 3D impression is what we are going to demonstrate. So how to leave the 3D impression. So let me share the camera so that you can see it. Let me put on the camera. Just give me like 2 minutes. The camera will be just a little patient. Yes, too soon. It's coming up. There are some material that we need in making a cast. Some material that we need in making a cast. Dental stone, we need a dental stone, we need a mixing bowl, spoon or stand stick. Then we need casting frame. Then at times we need a talcum powder. You may not always need that, depending on what the condition, but I will be explaining them one by one. Please hold on, let the camera on. Yes, I think you can see the camera now. Yes, I said we need a dental stone. Dental stone. This is what we call dental stone. This is dental stone. Can you see? This is dental stone. Let me stay close to the camera. This is dental stone. You can see it. That's dental stone. A dental stone is that material they use for teeth, that the dentists use for casting teeth or modeling teeth. After using it, mixing it with water, it becomes hard like stone. So, and this one will give us sharp impression. Those part of the impression of this impression, this is an impression left behind by a suspect. This impression, the impression like this, will be given to us very sharp, so it will be easy for us when we see the suspect shoe to compare them accurately to one another. But there's another material that was used before, but that one we don't use that one again. But in a case this one is not in existence, you can only lay your hand on this one, you can see use that one, and that one is a POP, the POP material. The POP material can be used, but it's not recommended where if you can get this one, because this one will give you accurate result. Those tiny lines, you will see everything clearly. Then it doesn't break like that one, and water doesn't affect it after the thing is solidified. So then you need water, as I said. You need ordinary water for mixing. Then you need a mixing bowl to mix it. You also need a spoon or stirring stick. Then you need a casting frame. Casting frame is needed, but not always. For example, if it is on a sand that is not sticky together, then you must use a casting frame. This is casting frame. This is what we call casting frame. Can you see? It's just to place it beside it, or so that it can guide the sand or the impression, so that it will not give way. That's just it. That's just the way it works. But in a kind of solid soil like this, you may not need it. Then, if that impression is inside the water, you will definitely need a casting frame, or on ice. Now let's move on and do the mixing. When you are doing this one, unlike other evidence, you don't need to cover your nostril or your hand. You don't need any PP, except if you are covering your nose so that the dental stone will not inhale it. Aside from that one, you don't need to protect yourself from any kind of contamination. you mix it and allow it to be thoroughly battered, to mix thoroughly. You mix it either using spoon or standing stick. Yes, we are about to get what we want. At times the corners of the mixing bowl may have a dry one, but you need to put just a little water to dislodge it and make it mix with others. Yeah, we're about to finish it. Yes, a little water, so don't be too thick. Make sure it is thoroughly minced. And you can get this thing either is colors. This is blue color. You can get white one, and there are some with, but this white is most common. White and blue. Others are not as common as that. You can get them at the dental shop. Now we begin to pour it. After mixing thoroughly, begin to pour it gently, and do not pour it directly on it. Just use your mixing stick or the spoon to serve as a landing yes. After getting it on it, then you can now allow it to move like that. Can spread it. Can use the turning stick also to do a careful spreading. Very careful. Can you see? So after this, you make sure that it spread at least a bit to cover the last line of the sole. I mean the impression. So you leave it for about 15 minutes. Then before it's finally solidified thoroughly, you make sure you write some information on it. The information that's supposed to be on backing card. So this one cannot, you can't use backing card for this one. So you just write it on it. You write it on it using something sharp, a sharp object to write it after like 15 minutes. Just let's give it like 15 minutes to solidify. Now, if you look at the this is what we casted. Then after casting it, you have to paint it, paint the front, and this is the impression that we got. This is the impression that we got from it. This is the impression. And now look at the shoe from which the thing was that we got it from. Look at the shoe. So you can see a lot of things that are similar there. You can see a lot of things that are similar there. Look at it. Let me look at this one. Can you see this? Let me place them side by side so you can see. Oh. So because of the camera, you may not be able to get everything in detail, but look at it. Can you see this? Can you see this? Let me use a pointer to point it to you. Can you see this? You see the same mark here. Then look at these marks. Look at what you have here. Now, this is how we do our comparison. You calculate the distance between here and here, the distance between here and here. So you match it with this one also, with the distance between here and here. You calculate the distance between here and here. If you buy this kind of shoe, if they are thousands or as many as possible, if two people buy their own the same day and they are wearing it, the tear and wear will not allow this thing to remain the same way it were. So the tear and wear, and every human being has a different gait. That is the way we walk. So the way we walk will make our shoe to have different marks. So these are the things that we compare, that we see, look at that we compare. If it's going to be, if you want to do it properly, this one also, we paint ink upon it, just as we paint ink on the model. Then we place it on paper. We can scan the two into the system, and where we begin to have our comparison. Because of our time, let's just stop here today. So what we compare is that we have the first thing we compare is that, are these pattern the same? Are the pattern the same? Number one. If the pattern are the same, if the pattern are not the same, then that means that is exclusion. If the pattern are the same, then you still go further to go and compare some other things, some minute details, like the position of each details to one another. The position, how the at times you see a mark that didn't come from the manufacturer. A mark that didn't come from the manufacturer. You see it on a shoe. The same thing, you are going to find the same thing on the let's look at this thing. All these these marks, they are marks of that show that it has been sewn. Look at it, this shoe has been sewn. So, and so many other things like that you look for. Because of our time, we are going to stop here today. So that is all we are going to do on footwear impression. It's an impression that we normally overlook at crime scene, but it's a very solid evidence that you can use to to identify any suspect or a criminal. So there are still a lot of things to be said, but because of time, the material will be sent to you. Thank you. Bye bye.